Hey everybody, this is Anastasia here with Brenna and Brian of the Front Porch Swingers podcast, and they are located in Las Vegas. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
There we go. Make sure I got your voice on there. We were able to hear him pretty good? Okay, cool. So these fabulous people have an amazing it's because I'm cold. They have an amazing podcast where they talk about everything from polyamory, open love, monogamous, non-monogamous, whatever you want to be. Now, we were talking earlier about some of the really cool things that you guys have experienced as a couple, which led you into your podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience and what led you to decide that you wanted to support your dynamic?
So I think for us, when we first started in the lifestyle, actually when we were first in a relationship, we were living in rural Montana, and we felt like we were kind of on an island. We didn't really realize that there were a lot of people like us, and I wanted to get our story out there. So we started off with a blog, and it didn't do very well. I'm not the best writer in the world. And Brian was like, we should start a podcast. And I said, we have no idea what a podcast is or what it entails. But I was very eager to do that because, again, I just wanted to share our story and wanted to, I don't know, I guess maybe feel a little bit less alone. And so the podcast has blown up. And we talk about mostly the hot wife lifestyle. And another reason that's become kind of a passion for us is because, especially when we first started, nobody was doing hot wife anything. It was all lifestyle, swinger-centric stuff, couple for couple stuff. So it's been very nice to kind of share a different type of non-monogamy with people.
And so for you guys, you started out with the hot wifing life. So am I allowed to ask about your first experience that led you into that? Sure. You want to answer that one for us? Okay.
I'm the one that set it up, so I guess it's only right that I answer it. So we had a conversation in bed one evening after we were together, obviously, and really divulged to each other that our fantasies were essentially aligned. And we had at that point absolutely no fear of being judged by each other because our relationship was completely based on being open anyway. And we really weren't entirely interested in being in a relationship. We fought it quite vehemently, actually, until we finally decided that we can't fight it anymore. This is what it is. So once we determined that the hot wife space and Brenna playing with single men was how we wanted to go, 10 days later, I had it set up. It was the first experience was done, and I hit it out of the park. If I must say so myself. So connected with a guy, ridiculously good looking. Matter of fact, I think we referred to him as Bradley Cooper on the show because that's what he looked like. Yeah. It was amazing. And from that point on, I mean, we were hooked. It was, I remember we did this, we were in Montana at the time. And after he left our place, he wasn't out of the door yet, literally not out of the door. I locked the door and I took all my clothes off in the hallway. And it was on. That was it. It literally wasn't 30 seconds. And we realized, of course, that what we had done was going to work. And that's really where it started. From that point, there was no stopping us.
That's awesome. And, you know, I love the hot wife that you guys are able to do. There's so many people, especially since that's what we specialize for our events with LSM. I love seeing it. I love seeing the communication that everybody has. Now, we talked about this earlier. And this is one of those things that I've learned about in psychology that I find very interesting. Are you married? Why or why not?
We are not married, and we probably never will be married. We have 5 failed marriages between us. So I think for us, we just know that what we have right now works. And we don't really want to mess with it until it makes sense to do so. I think for us, marriage is a contract that is typically business related or otherwise financially related. And I like the fact that that's not our dynamic. Our relationship is based on romance and sex and fun, and that's how we want to keep it. So.
That's an amazing way to look at it. And one of the other things that we discussed earlier was the legal aspects. A lot of people, when they're married, they think of their benefits as being the Social Security or the retirement and things. When you're doing your taxes, you don't have to be married. You can still file taxes together. You know, when you're doing businesses together and having trusts, and as you referred to, like the beneficiary and power of attorney, that's what it was. Blonde moment. But yeah, and you can do those without having to sign a legal contract to be married. The marriage, I feel, it truly is between the two people. and you guys stay happy with it. Now, the next question is, you were together for how many years?
6.
So y'all guys were together for 6 years. Everything's working good for you. What do you feel has been the leading contributors to your ability to have a functioning, healthy relationship? It's your turn. It's your turn.
My turn. I'll tell you this. Obviously, in this, I know it's a cliche. In this space, trust, communication, transparency, all those things are paramount. Because of the way our relationship started, which was not traditional anyway, we started in a BDSM dynamic. We fought the relationship. We were just going to do this for fun. We didn't have any reason to lie to each other. It was completely transparent from the beginning. What do I want? What does she want? What do we want out of this? And because it started that way, there was really no reason to go backwards. We were already on that trajectory. So we weren't a couple that started out as a monogamous couple in a really confined, restricted relationship and try to open it up and try to explore. We were already exploring. That's how it started. So the rest of this was really just in addition to what we had already begun. And frankly, I think that our being in the lifestyle, in a big way, has kept us on that track. And so the longer we've been doing this and the more experiences we have, obviously, and we have a lot of experiences, we're active in this space. We have regular play partners. We play separately. We are completely independent of one another for the most part. We communicate about everything and share that information, but we play separately. Because we are that way, we are constantly, I think, updating our information with each other. You know, it's just more data. And that's really the difference. At some point, couples stop talking to each other. A lot of times, right? You got kids, there's school and there's soccer and there's work and there's all those things. We work together every day. We talk about everything at nauseum. And so I don't think there's any reason that we won't continue to do that. So our relationship can't get anything but stronger based on all of those parameters.
That's good. That's very good. So we could definitely talk forever. I love the dynamic that you guys have, the education that you have. Speaking of education and experience, the last important question I would like to ask you is, I think one of the last ones that I did ask you before we came on camera, was if you are interested in exploring a non-monogamous relationship, whether it's polyamory or labeling it as a swinger or ethical non-monogamy, but you're currently not there, whether you're in a relationship or single, what advice, what aspect are you going to look at with someone when you're trying to guide them on the best way to approach this?
I think for me, the biggest question is always why. Why do you want to get into this space? Because it's a wonderful space, but it's not right for everyone. And a lot of times people get into it for the wrong reasons. I think we were just discussing, there are a lot of couples, for example, that believe that this is a Band-Aid for a relationship that isn't strong and isn't intimate. And I could not disagree with that more. I think you have to be really, really strong and in an amazing place in your relationship for this to make sense. So that's the biggest thing. Why do you actually want to do it? And if you're doing it for the right reasons, then, you know, there's so many resources out there and things that you can be looking into, people you can talk to that are so eager to share their information. So if you're doing it for the right reasons, go search out those resources. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to guys mostly, the guys that reach out to me. And they'll say, I get this a lot, how do I talk to my partner about this? My answer is the same always, very carefully, because it's a bell you cannot unring. Because really, it's only going to go one of two ways. If your partner is not interested at all and you breach this subject with them, there's a likelihood that they're going to assume in perpetuity that you're not happy with your relationship. On the other hand, in a lot of cases, both parties want to get into the space of ethical non-monogamy, but are deathly afraid to bring it up. One of them does, and then all of a sudden, it opens the floodgates. But this space, as Brenna mentioned, this is like, it's everything in this space is an enhancement. If your relationship is great, it's going to make it that much better. If it's not, it's going to destroy it. So it's really, it's going to highlight the good and the bad in a relationship. So you got to be very careful. But my answer, be cautious. Always be cautious and really understand, like Brenna said, why do you want to do it? Before you bring this to your partner, you better have a lot of answers for questions that they're going to ask you. It's difficult if you don't have enough answers for yourself. If you can't articulate why you want to do it, you certainly can't convince your partner to do anything, right? You can't convince them that this is good for your relationship.
And those are all fabulous points, and I love being able to touch on that with you guys. it just reassures me with everything that I talk to people about. You know, I've only been doing this for a short period of time, just a few years, and people coming to me and asking questions. I love to know that I'm still reassuring them and giving them good advice, very similar to what you guys, 'cause you've been doing it so much longer than I have. Now, before we wrap it up, I would love to make sure that everyone knows where they can find you guys if they want to listen to your podcast or watch anything that you have going on.
So all of our information is at frontporchswingers.com. You can find the podcast there. We also host events like the one we're at currently, and we also have things like blogs and other resources that are hopefully just, you know, helpful to people out there. But honestly, frontporchswingers.com is the easiest way to find us in all places.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I look forward to being able to talk with you guys more after this, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.